I trusted my best friend like a brother, until I saw him selling my secrets to my partner, one message at a time, like I was a product. His name was Ryan, and we'd been close since we were broke students sharing cheap food and big plans. He was the guy who talked me off ledges, who showed up when my car died, who knew my passwords because I never thought I need to hide anything from him. When I started dating Mia, Ryan was the first person I introduced her to. I remember thinking it was perfect, my two favorite people getting along. Ryan joked with her, made her laugh, treated her like she'd always been part of our circle. Mia liked him immediately. Too immediately. I ignored that because I wanted harmony. The first year was good. Mia and I moved in together, split bills, built routines, the normal couple stuff. Ryan was around a lot, sometimes third-wheeling, sometimes helping with errands, always available. It felt comforting at first, like we had a little chosen family. Then small weird things started happening. Mia would bring up details I hadn't told her. Not huge things, but private ones. Like an old insecurity I'd mentioned only to Ryan or a family issue I was embarrassed about. She'd say it casually, smiling like it was nothing. "You always overthink because of what happened with your dad," she'd say, even though I'd never told her about that conversation with Ryan on that rainy night outside the bar. I'd freeze, then she'd add, "You told me," and I'd doubt myself. That doubt was the first crack. The second crack was money. I'm not rich, but I'm stable, and Mia had a way of making shared expenses slowly become my expenses. If I questioned it, she'd say I was being controlling. Ryan would back her up, always gently, always reasonable. "Bro, it's not that deep," he'd say. "Relationships aren't spreadsheets." That line should have made me suspicious because Ryan loved spreadsheets. He loved control. He just didn't want me using control against him. The real shift came when I got promoted at work and my salary jumped. Mia was suddenly affectionate in a way that felt staged. Extra compliments, extra future talk, extra, we should travel, extra, we should upgrade our place. Ryan started calling me more too, asking weird questions about my contract, my bonus structure, whether my company stock had vesting dates. I joked, "Why do you care?" Ryan laughed and said, "Just proud of you, man. Want to make sure you don't get played." That word, played, felt ironic later. The night everything broke happened at a friend's birthday. Mia had gone to the bathroom. Ryan was outside taking a call, and I was at the bar paying for drinks when I saw Ryan's phone on the counter. It lit up with a notification. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the preview text showed my name. "He still hasn't noticed," the message said. My stomach dropped. Another message stacked under it. "Push the therapy angle again. He caves when he feels guilty." My hands went cold. Therapy angle? Caves? I stared at the screen like it was unreal. The contact name wasn't saved as Mia. It was saved as a symbol, like they were hiding it from anyone glancing. But I recognized the writing style instantly. The punctuation, the tone. It was her. I looked around, heart pounding, and then a third message popped up. Also, get the login for his banking app. The savings account is the real target. The real target. I felt like I couldn't breathe. In that moment, every small weird thing clicked into one ugly picture. Ryan wasn't just my friend. He was feeding Mia my insecurities, my history, my weak spots, so she could steer me, financially, emotionally, like a vehicle. And he was doing it like a business deal. I didn't unlock his phone. I didn't scroll. I didn't need to. The previews were enough to slice through years of trust. I put the phone back exactly where it was, forced my face into neutral, and walked to the bathroom like I was normal. Inside the stall, I shook so hard I had to grip the door. Then I did the one smart thing I could think of. I turned on my own phone screen recording and opened my notes, typing a timestamp line. Saw Ryan's text with Mia about manipulating me and targeting my savings. Because I suddenly understood the real danger. If they were working together, they were also building a story where I was the problem. And if I confronted them without proof, they'd flip it and make me look paranoid. So I decided right there, in a bathroom at a birthday party, that I wouldn't confront them yet. I would catch them. I walked out of that bathroom with my face calm and my stomach on fire, because the worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing they'd been rehearsing me like a script. Every time Mia had accidentally said the perfect thing to calm me down, every time Ryan had randomly given relationship advice that favored her, every time I felt guilty for questioning money, it suddenly looked like coordination. I sat back at the table, smiled when people talked to me, laughed at the right moments, and watched them like I was seeing them for the first time. Ryan came back from outside, slapped me on the shoulder like nothing, and said, "All good." Mia returned and kissed my cheek. I felt the urge to flinch, but I didn't. I just nodded because I needed one thing more than comfort: proof. That night, I didn't confront either of them. I went home with Mia, acted tired, and said I needed to sleep early. She seemed relieved, like my silence was a win. The next morning, I started doing something that felt disgusting but necessary. I audited my own life. I checked my bank app for any new linked devices. I checked my email for login alerts. I checked my phone's save passwords. I checked my laptop for saved sessions. Then I checked something I'd never checked before: my shared expenses with Mia. I pulled our payment app history and started scrolling month by month. The pattern was subtle at first, then obvious. The shared groceries were mostly her personal shopping. The rent split had quietly become me paying the full amount the last 2 months because she'd been between projects. The vacation fund transfers went out regularly, but I couldn't see where they ended up because the account was hers. When I asked about it in the past, she'd smiled and said, "Trust me. Trust me." That phrase now felt like a rope. I needed to confirm Ryan's involvement beyond those notification previews, because if I accused my partner and my best friend of scheme, they'd both deny it and call me unstable. They'd use the therapy angle against me. So I set a trap that didn't require hacking, snooping, or anything illegal, just letting them talk. I texted Ryan casually, "Hey, random question. You still have that old spreadsheet template for budgets? Mia wants us to get organized." Ryan replied fast, "Yeah, bro, send me your numbers, and I'll make it clean." "Send me your numbers." "Perfect." I answered, "What do you need?" He sent a list: income, savings balances, account types, investment info, even the name of my bank. That wasn't friendly advice. That was data collection. I screenshotted it. Then I told Mia at dinner, lightly, Ryan offered to help us plan our budget. Her eyes lit up a little too quickly. "That's sweet," she said. "He's so supportive." Supportive. I watched her carefully and added, "I told him we're fine, though." Mia's smile flickered. "Why would you say that?" she asked too fast. I shrugged. "I don't want him in our finances." Mia laughed, but it sounded forced. "It's not in our finances. It's just advice," she said. And then, like she couldn't help herself, she added, "He's good with numbers. He can help you not overthink." Overthink. That was one of my triggers, something I told Ryan privately about my anxiety. Mia was using it now like a lever. I nodded like it didn't matter and changed the subject. That night, while Mia showered, her phone lit up on the bed with a notification. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The preview showed Ryan's name. "He's hesitating," it said. "Try guilt." My throat tightened. There was again. Not speculation. Not paranoia. Instructions. The only reason those previews kept appearing was because Mia hadn't turned off message previews, because she never imagined I'd be looking. Or maybe she did and wanted me to see at the perfect time so she could spin it. Either way, I started writing timestamps again because I knew this would become a reality war if I didn't anchor facts. The next day, I took a bigger step. I called my bank and asked them to put a verbal password on my account, disable phone support without it, and list all devices currently authorized. They told me there were 2 devices, mine and another iPhone, that had been added 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. I felt sick. I asked the rep to remove it immediately and lock all transfers above a small limit without in-person verification. The rep asked if I suspected fraud. I said yes. That created a record. A bank record is like a bone. You can't gaslight it. Then I checked my email security logs and saw a login from a location across town at a time I was at work. It was flagged as successful. My hand shook. Either Mia had my password, or Ryan did, or both. I changed everything: email, banking, cloud storage, and I enabled MFA with an authenticator app, not SMS. I also changed my phone passcode because Mia had watched me type it in 100 times. Every change I made felt like peeling a layer of skin off, because it forced me to admit how open I'd been with them. That evening, Ryan called me, unusually upbeat. "Bro, you good?" he asked. "You've been distant." I said I was fine. He laughed lightly and said, "Don't get weird on me. We're family." Family. He used that word like a brand. Then he lowered his voice and said, "Mia's stressed. You should be gentle. You know how she gets." He was coaching me again. I asked casually, "Why are you so involved?" Ryan chuckled. "Because I care about you," he said. "And because I don't want you to mess up a good thing." Mess up a good thing. Like I was the only risk in the relationship. I ended the call politely, but inside I'd made a decision. I was done playing defense. If they were trying to drain my savings and control my emotions, I would flip the script and let them walk into a trap of their own greed. I would offer them a fake opportunity, something irresistible, and record how they moved. Because if Ryan and Mia were truly selling my secrets, they wouldn't be able to resist the chance to cash out. I designed the bait around the one thing both of them cared about more than love: access. Not just to my money, but to my future. So I invented a windfall that sounded believable enough to trigger them. I told Mia, casually over breakfast, that my company was doing a surprise retention bonus program, and my manager hinted I might get a big payout if I stayed through the next quarter. I kept it vague but juicy. It could be 5 figures, maybe more. Mia's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she smoothed her face into a supportive smile. "That's amazing," she said, too bright. Then she asked exactly what I expected. "When would you get it? And where would it go?" Where would it go? Not, "I'm happy for you." Not, "You deserve it." Where'd it go? I shrugged and said, "Probably deposited to my savings." I watched her nod slowly, like she was mentally moving pieces. That afternoon, I told Ryan the same story, framed as stress. "Bro, if I get this bonus, I don't want to mess it up. Any advice?" Ryan replied instantly, "You need to protect it. People come out of nowhere when money hits." The irony almost made me nauseous. He continued, "Don't keep in one place. Also, don't tell anyone. Even Mia, low-key. Not because she's bad, but money changes people. Money changes people." He was telling me to hide it from the person he was actively coordinating with. That wasn't advice. That was strategy, his strategy. Then he asked, casual as a knife, "How much are we talking?" "Like exact range." I said, "Maybe 60 to 80K. Not sure." I chose that number because it was big enough to trigger greed, but not so huge it sounded fake. Ryan went quiet for a second, then said, "Yeah, that's serious." Serious meant target. That night, Mia suddenly suggested we merge finances for the future. She said it sweetly, like it was romantic. "We're building a life," she told me. "It makes sense to be a team." Team. Another brand word. I acted hesitant, then said, "Maybe. I just need time." Mia's expression tightened, then softened into the exact look she used when she wanted me to feel guilty. "You don't trust me?" she asked quietly. There was guilt lever, the therapy angle. I sighed like I was conflicted and said, "It's not that." Mia nodded and said, "I don't want money. I want security. I want to feel chosen." Chosen. She was performing now, and I realized how often she'd done it. I asked gently, "If we merged, how would we do it?" Mia said, "Easy. We add each other to our accounts, just for convenience." Add each other. My bank had already told me a second device had been added 3 weeks ago. She was asking for permission after doing it without permission. That made my blood cold. I pretended to consider it and said, "Let's talk after the bonus is confirmed." Mia nodded, satisfied, like I'd agreed to the general direction. Then she went to the bathroom, and I heard her phone buzz immediately. A minute later, Ryan texted me. "She's worried you're pulling away. Don't overthink. Just reassure her." Reassure her. That's when I knew the coordination was live and constant. So I escalated the bait. I told Mia I needed to meet a financial advisor and asked if she wanted to come. She said yes instantly. Too fast. I said the advisor was strict and wanted statements and identity verification. Mia said, "No problem." Then she added, "I can bring your documents too if you're busy." Bring your documents. That was the real request. Not love, not future documents. I smiled and said, "I'll handle it." That evening I texted Ryan something I knew would trigger him. "If this bonus hits, I might buy condo. Could put in my name. Might need advice. Ryan replied, don't do only your name. That looks bad if you're with Mia. Investors and banks like stability. Investors and banks. What the hell did that have to do with my condo? He was thinking about legal leverage, shared assets, claims, access. I responded, you think I should put a joint? Ryan said, honestly, yes. Shows commitment. Also protects you if anything happens. Protects you. Again, irony. My attorney friend from earlier startup drama had once told me, the fastest way to get trapped is to prove commitment with paperwork. Ryan was pushing me toward paperwork that would entangle Mia with my assets. I screenshotted everything. Then I made the final bait move. I created a fake email on my laptop that looked like a corporate notification stating my retention bonus had been approved and would deposit within 7 days. I didn't send it to anyone. I just left it open on my screen when Mia walked into the room, as if I forgot to close it. I watched her eyes flick to it instantly. She didn't say anything. She kissed my cheek and asked if I wanted dinner. But that night she was unusually affectionate, unusually calm, like she was already spending money in her head. And sure enough, around midnight, I got a bank alert. Someone attempted to reset my password. It failed because I'd changed everything. The attempt came from an iPhone model that matched the other device the bank had mentioned. My heart pounded, but instead of panic, I felt something sharper. Confirmation. They weren't just talking about using me. They were actively trying. I forwarded the alert to myself, then to a fresh email folder my attorney friend had told me to keep for evidence. The next morning, Ryan called and said, hey, quick thing. Mia said you're stressed. Maybe you should let her help with the admin stuff. It'll take pressure off. Admin stuff. He meant access again. I said casually, yeah, maybe. Actually, can you come over tonight? I want to talk through a plan man-to-man. Ryan hesitated, then said, of course. Of course. Because he thought tonight was where he'd close the deal. He didn't realize tonight was where I'd record the truth. I set up the night like a normal hangout, because normal is what makes people careless. I asked Ryan to come over to talk, told Mia it was just guy stuff, and I cleaned the living room like we were hosting. But behind the normal, I prepared 2 quiet protections. I put my phone in a position where the mic could pick up clear audio, and I turned on an automatic cloud backup for the recording to a new secure account Mia couldn't access. I also left a small notebook on the table with a few fake numbers scribbled inside, just enough to make it look like I was planning finances and could be persuaded. The goal wasn't to trick them into confessing like cartoon villains. The goal was to create a moment where Ryan would advise me to do something clearly wrong, and where Mia would reveal she already had access she shouldn't. Ryan arrived first, all smiles, acting like nothing had happened. He brought beer, sat down, and said, all right, talk to me. I played the role of anxious boyfriend and said, I feel like Mia's been weird about money, and I don't know if I'm overthinking. Ryan leaned back like a therapist and said, bro, you've always had trust issues. You know that. Trust issues. That was one of my private insecurities, his favorite lever. I nodded and said, maybe, but she keeps asking about my accounts. Ryan shrugged. That's normal, he said. She's trying to feel secure. I asked, secure from what? Ryan smiled. From uncertainty, he said, like it was wise. Then I said, quietly, I saw a login attempt on my bank last night. Ryan's posture shifted slightly. Not shocked, alert. He asked too fast. Did it go through? I said no. I changed passwords. Ryan exhaled like he was relieved. Relief is a tell. I leaned forward and said, I'm thinking maybe I should just add her officially, so she doesn't feel like I'm hiding things. That was the bait. Ryan's eyes lit up, subtle but real. That's actually the best move, he said immediately. It'll calm her down, and it shows commitment. Commitment. I asked, but what if something goes wrong? Ryan laughed lightly. Nothing's going to go wrong, he said. Mia's not like that. Then he lowered his voice and said, look, you're about to get this bonus. If she feels locked out, she'll spiral. If she feels included, she'll relax. Spiral. That was the therapy angle. I said, so you think I should give her access before the bonus hits? Ryan nodded without hesitation. Yeah, he said. Otherwise, you'll have fights. And fights make people do dumb stuff. Dumb stuff like Trying to reset my bank password? I kept my face neutral and asked, what kind of access is normal? Ryan leaned in and started listing specifics like he'd rehearsed. Add her as a trusted user, give her the login, set up a joint savings sub-account, link her card for emergencies. The more he talked, the more it sounded like instructions, not advice. Then Mia walked in with snacks like a perfect scene, smiling sweetly. Hey babe, she said to me, then to Ryan. Thanks for coming. He's been stressed. She sat close to me and squeezed my hand, performing concern. Ryan looked at her and said, we're talking it through. He just needs reassurance. Mia nodded and said, I'm not asking for control. I'm asking for transparency. Transparency. I said, so you'd be okay if I didn't merge anything yet? Mia's smile tightened. Why would you even think like that? She asked. I shrugged. Because it's a lot. Mia looked at Ryan for half a second. Just a glance, but it was a signal. Ryan jumped in instantly. Bro, don't self-sabotage, he said. You always do this when things are good. Self-sabotage. He was placing blame on me, as usual. Mia added softly, when you shut me out, it makes me feel unsafe. Unsafe. That word hit hard because it was designed to make me feel like the villain. I said, okay, hypothetically, if I add you to my account, what would you do? Mia didn't hesitate. Nothing, she said quickly. Too quickly. I just want to know it's there. Know it's there. I leaned back and said, my bank told me another device was added to my account 3 weeks ago. The room went quiet for a beat. Mia's face froze. Ryan's eyes flicked toward her, then back to me. Mia laughed weakly and said, what? That's impossible. Ryan jumped in. Banks glitch all the time. Glitch. Convenient. I kept my voice calm and said, they gave me the device model. It's an iPhone. Mia swallowed. A lot of people have iPhones, she said. I nodded slowly and said, yeah, like you. Mia's eyes widened. Ryan's jaw tightened slightly. Then Mia did exactly what I expected. She tried to flip it to emotion. Are you accusing me? She whispered, eyes shining with manufactured tears. Ryan leaned forward and said, bro, this is why you need therapy. You jumped to the worst case. Therapy angle. There was Liv in my living room on my recording. I let the silence sit for a second, then said, I saw your messages pop up on Ryan's phone. About me. Mia's face drained. Ryan snapped, what messages? I didn't yell. I didn't accuse wildly. I just said, the ones about pushing guilt. The ones about my savings being the real target. Mia's mouth opened and closed. Ryan stood up abruptly. You snooped, he said, voice sharp. You violated privacy. Classic reversal. Make my discovery the crime. I said calmly. It was on your lock screen. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Mia started crying for real now, not because she was hurt, but because the script was collapsing. Ryan pointed at me and said, if you tell anyone this, you're done. You hear me? Done. Done. A threat. And then he made the mistake that ended everything. He said, you should have just let us handle it. Us. Not her. Not him. Us. The word hung in the air like a confession. Mia whispered, Ryan, stop. Ryan looked at her like she'd failed her part. I stood up and said, get out. Ryan laughed, bitter. You think you're safe? He said. You have no idea what I can prove. Proof. The same word as receipts. He was going to manufacture proof again. But this time, I had an audio recording of his threats and his us confession, and I had bank logs of unauthorized device access. I watched them leave, my hands shaking, and I knew the next step was the most dangerous. The moment they realized they'd lost control and would try to destroy my reputation to cover it. The second the door closed behind them, I didn't sit down and cry. I moved like someone who finally understood the rules. Because Ryan's type doesn't lose quietly. They lose loudly, and they try to make you look crazy so nobody believes you. I exported the recording immediately, saved it to 2 separate secure locations, and emailed a copy to myself with a timestamp. Then I wrote a clean summary of what was on it. Ryan advising me to give Mia account access, both of them denying the extra device. Ryan using the therapy line, and Ryan saying, you should have just let us handle it, plus the threat, if you tell anyone this, you're done. The point wasn't drama. It was clarity. Next, I called my bank again and asked for written confirmation of the unauthorized device addition and the failed password reset attempt, including timestamps and device type. They told me they could provide a fraud activity note and an account history statement. I requested it and asked them to flag the account as suspected unauthorized access with a reference number. Reference numbers are armor. Then I contacted my phone provider and asked whether any SIM swap attempts had been made. None, but I still added a port-out PIN. Then I changed every password again, rotated recovery emails, and removed Mia's devices from any shared home app access. The hardest part came next. I had to assume Mia might already have copies of my personal documents, ID photos, tax forms, whatever she'd asked for to help with rent or to apply for something. So I froze my credit. Not because I wanted to live in fear, but because I'd rather look paranoid than be bankrupt. Within hours, the smear attempt started exactly as predicted. A mutual friend texted, "Yo, what happened? Mia says you snapped and accused her of stealing." Another friend wrote, "Ryan said you're having a mental breakdown. Are you okay?" There was the script. Unstable, paranoid, needs therapy. I didn't argue. I sent one calm message to a small group of friends I trusted. Not everyone, just the ones who wouldn't screenshot it for drama. Mia and Ryan coordinated to access my finances. I have bank records and an audio recording. I'm handling it legally. Please don't engage with rumors. I kept it short because long explanations look like panic. Then I did the most important thing. I filed a police report for attempted unauthorized access and harassment. I didn't walk in and say my girlfriend and best friend are evil. I said, an unauthorized device was added to my bank account. There were password reset attempts. I received threats when I confronted the people I suspect, and I have documentation. The officer took it seriously because banks are involved and because I had reference numbers. I gave him the bank's fraud note and the timeline. That created an official record before Mia and Ryan could create one against me. Then I called my employer's HR proactively. That felt terrifying because I knew Ryan might try to poison my workplace the same way he'd coached Mia to poison my emotions. I told HR one simple thing. I'm dealing with a personal security issue involving attempted unauthorized access to my finances. There may be false rumors about my mental health or behavior. I want to document this in case someone tries to contact the company with false claims. HR didn't need details. They needed the heads up. I also asked our IT security team to note that any request to reset my corporate credentials should require in-person verification. Again, boring steps. Boring steps beat dramatic lies. Mia tried to reach me that night from a new number. She sent, "Please, we could talk." Ryan made it worse. I didn't mean it. I didn't respond. Because talk was where she was strongest. Paper was where I was strongest now. Ryan then tried to do exactly what he threatened. He sent an email to a group of friends with screenshots of a text thread that made it look like I'd been controlling and abusive. The screenshots were cropped. No timestamps, no context. Classic. One friend forwarded it to me, asking if it was true. I replied with one line. Ask him for full message exports. He won't have them. Then I did the nuclear but necessary move. Through an attorney, I sent both Mia and Ryan a preservation notice and cease and desist. It demanded they stop contacting my employer, stop making defamatory statements, preserve all communications and files related to me, including any drafts of screenshots, and identify any accounts or devices used to access my financial accounts. The letter also referenced the police report number and bank fraud reference. When people realize institutions are watching, they change behavior fast. Mia's next message was a long apology. Ryan's response was silence. Silence meant he was calculating. 2 days later, I got the confirmation that finally broke their leverage. The bank's fraud team traced the unauthorized device registration to an IP address that matched Mia's apartment complex network during the time it was added. Not proof beyond doubt, but enough to show it wasn't random. I added that to the police report. Then Claire, one of Mia's close friends, someone who'd always been polite to me, reached out privately and said, "I'm sorry." Ryan has done this before. He gets close to women who date stable guys. He calls it helping them secure the bag. Secure the bag. A phrase that made me feel physically ill because it reduced my life to a resource. I asked her if she'd put that in writing for my attorney. She agreed. That was the final nail. Third-party corroboration. Mia tried to salvage by offering to return whatever she took, insisting she never transferred money. And maybe she didn't. Maybe the plan was to wait for the bonus and then move. The point wasn't whether she succeeded yet. The point was intent. Ryan tried one last time to intimidate me, leaving a voicemail. "You're making a huge mistake. Drop this, or you'll regret it." I saved it, forwarded it to my attorney, and added it to the case file. In the end, there wasn't a dramatic courtroom scene. There was a quiet collapse. Mia moved out within a week because I changed the locks and ended the lease properly. Ryan lost our mutual circle because once people realized he couldn't produce originals, his credibility evaporated. The police report didn't turn into an instant arrest, but it created a record that made future lies riskier. And the biggest change wasn't external, it was internal. I stopped confusing familiarity with loyalty. I stopped handing my weak spots to people who smiled too easily. The last message I ever sent Mia was one sentence. "You didn't just break my trust, you outsourced it." She never replied. And Ryan? He never apologized. He just disappeared because manipulators don't admit guilt. They just look for a new target who still believes best friend means safe.